Imagine waking up tomorrow with everything you've ever depended on suddenly gone forever. No phone, no electricity, no house. Everything has completely disappeared. Your comfortable modern life has vanished in a single terrifying moment. You're completely alone in the Stone Age, thousands of years before civilization. No one is coming to rescue you, and every decision now matters. Could you actually survive in a world like this? Most people believe surviving would simply mean finding food and shelter. But the real challenge begins long before your first meal. Even the smallest mistake could become your last. Let's discover whether a modern human could really survive the Stone Age. Most people imagine the Stone Age as a world filled with fearless cavemen hunting giant beasts. But reality was far more complicated than movies make it seem. Stone Age people were among the greatest survival experts who ever lived. Every single day demanded knowledge that took years to learn. One wrong choice could easily cost someone their life. They knew exactly which plants could heal and which could kill. Even reading tiny animal tracks was an essential survival skill. They noticed sounds, smells, and signs that most of us would completely miss. These weren't instincts. They were skills learned over an entire lifetime. Without that knowledge, surviving becomes much harder than anyone expects. Your very first challenge wouldn't actually be finding something to eat. Long before hunger becomes dangerous, your body begins searching for water. Humans can survive weeks without food, but only a few days without water. Finally, you discover a clear river flowing quietly through the wilderness. The water looks perfectly clean, but appearances can be dangerously misleading. Tiny invisible organisms could already be hiding inside that peaceful stream. Drinking unsafe water could leave you too sick to continue surviving. Today, we'd simply boil it, but that's much easier said than done. Before you can boil water, you first have to create fire from absolutely nothing. And without a lighter or matches, that's where the real struggle begins. Starting a fire without modern tools is far harder than most people imagine. Even experienced survival experts sometimes spend hours trying to make one small flame. Minute after minute passes, but the wood refuses to catch fire. Your hands become sore long before the first spark ever appears. Then, at last, a tiny thread of smoke begins to rise. One careless breath could destroy all of your hard work. Slowly, the first real flame finally comes to life. As the sun sinks lower, the temperature begins to fall surprisingly fast. Darkness changes the wilderness in ways most people never experience today. Without fire or shelter, your first night could easily become your last. By the next morning, your biggest problem still isn't finding a huge animal to hunt. Movies often make hunting look quick, simple, and almost effortless. Reality was much slower, and failure happened far more often than success. Many hunting trips ended with everyone returning home completely empty-handed. Large animals were incredibly powerful and unbelievably dangerous. One single mistake could end the hunt in an instant. Even a frightened deer could seriously injure an unprepared hunter. So perhaps gathering wild plants sounds like the safer option. But suddenly, every leaf and every berry becomes a difficult decision. Without the right knowledge, choosing the wrong one could be deadly. Many poisonous plants look almost identical to perfectly safe ones. Without generations of knowledge, telling them apart becomes almost impossible. One careless bite could leave you dangerously sick within hours. Some wild plants can damage the body long before help could ever arrive. The modern grocery store has quietly replaced skills our ancestors mastered. Even making a simple stone knife is much harder than it sounds. Not every rock can become a sharp cutting tool. Choosing the wrong stone wastes precious time and valuable energy. The correct angle matters just as much as the force behind every strike. One wrong hit can shatter your only chance at making a useful tool. Those razor-sharp stone fragments can be more dangerous than they first appear. One careless movement could slice your hand wide open. Even a small cut was once a very serious problem. Without modern medicine, infections could become life-threatening. Today, a simple bandage solves problems our ancestors feared deeply. Back then, every injury forced you to slow down and stay cautious. Even twisting your ankle could completely change your chances of survival. When you're completely alone, nobody is there to help you recover. Every task suddenly becomes slower, harder, and far more exhausting. Surviving alone demands far more than strength or determination. Surprisingly, the greatest danger wasn't always a hungry predator. The real threat often came from being completely alone. Humans didn't survive the Stone Age because one person could do everything. They survived because every member helped the entire group. Some gathered food, while others searched for clean water. Others stayed behind to protect children and keep the fire alive. Knowledge wasn't stored in books. It was shared from person to person. Every lesson learned made the entire group stronger. No single person could master every survival skill alone. Working together became humanity's greatest survival advantage. Without a tribe beside you, your chances of surviving fall dramatically. Every task suddenly becomes your responsibility alone. You must gather food, build shelter, make tools, and stay alert at the same time. There simply aren't enough hours in the day to do everything perfectly. Eventually, exhaustion begins making every decision much harder. Even simple mistakes become more likely when your body is exhausted. Stone Age survival depended as much on teamwork as it did on individual skill. That's one reason humans became one of Earth's most successful species. Our greatest survival tool was never just strength. It was each other. Working together transformed survival into something humanity could truly master. But don't underestimate what modern humans are still capable of accomplishing. Your body is almost identical to the people who lived during the Stone Age. The biggest difference isn't your body, it's your experience. Most survival skills simply aren't part of everyday life anymore. Yet every one of those forgotten skills can still be learned today. Learning begins with patience, repetition, and plenty of failed attempts. With enough practice, difficult survival tasks slowly become familiar. Some modern survival experts have even lived using only ancient technology. They proved these ancient techniques still work when practiced correctly. In the end, knowledge has always been humanity's greatest survival tool. So, could the average person really survive the Stone Age today? For a single day, most healthy people would probably manage. For several days, survival becomes much more uncertain. After weeks, the challenge becomes incredibly difficult for almost anyone. Not because humans are weak, but because survival requires countless different skills. Civilization quietly performs thousands of survival tasks for us every single day. Clean water is something most of us rarely stop to appreciate. Safe food is another everyday luxury we often take for granted. Warm clothing and sturdy shelter protect us without us even noticing. Without realizing it, we've outsourced survival itself. But imagine spending years learning every forgotten survival skill. Little by little, those impossible tasks would begin feeling natural. You would recognize useful plants almost without stopping to think. Animal tracks would become clues instead of confusing marks in the dirt. Building a shelter would feel more like routine than a desperate struggle. Experience slowly transforms fear into quiet confidence. That's exactly how our ancestors became masters of their environment. Their greatest weapon wasn't strength. It was experience earned over many years. Every generation passed those life-saving lessons to the next. Without that knowledge, survival becomes a game of dangerous guesses. So, what's the final answer to our question? Could one modern human really survive the Stone Age alone? For a short time, the answer is probably yes. For months, however, the odds become much less encouraging. Nature demands knowledge every single day, not just determination. Every sunrise brings brand new problems that must be solved again. There are no weekends, no shortcuts, and no days off from survival. Every successful day simply earns you the chance to face tomorrow. That's what made surviving the Stone Age such an extraordinary achievement. The people who lived through it truly earned every single sunrise. The Stone Age wasn't a world built for comfort or convenience. It challenged people every single day in ways we rarely experience now. Yet generation after generation continued finding ways to survive. Their success came from patience, cooperation, and constant learning. Those lessons quietly shape the future of every human alive today. In many ways, their knowledge still lives inside our history. Even if we've forgotten many of those ancient survival skills, the incredible story of human survival is still all around us. Every mountain, river, and forest once tested our ancestors' determination. And somehow, against incredible odds, they succeeded. So, could one modern human survive the Stone Age completely alone? For a little while. Probably yes. For months or even years. The answer becomes far less certain. Not because humans are weak, but because civilization quietly helps us survive every single day. Wasn't conquered by luck. It was conquered through knowledge. Generation after generation passed those lessons forward. Maybe the real question isn't whether we could survive. Maybe it's how much of that ancient wisdom we've forgotten. The greatest survival story ever told is the story of humanity itself. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this journey into humanity's distant past. If you love discovering the mysteries of ancient humans, there's much more to explore. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next adventure.